Hi, I am here. Just testing that this is working. It's Simone Johnson here. Hi. I just recorded another video for you. Took me about half an hour, maybe more, only to realise that it hadn't recorded. So I'm a little bit fed up. Anyway, so I'm not going to say as much as I did with the last recording, just in case it doesn't work. So I'm just going to touch on a couple of really important things, all right? We're going to talk about how to develop your spiritual senses. And we're going to talk about why. Because not everyone wants to develop their spiritual senses to become a psychic medium, you know, or anything like that. It's just a lot of people, they enjoy it. They want to be able to enjoy it. They want to be able to maybe give the odd message, or they just want to be able to connect with their loved ones that have passed over themselves. So for whatever the reason, I'm gonna go through a few important things with you on the development side, and I want to just start by saying that I'm self-taught, and I sort of developed my senses myself without sort of any outside guidance. I did have one friend who gave me, and she knows who she is, she gave me a push in the right direction, and when I phoned her and told her my experiences, you know, she was great because I didn't feel silly talking to her because she's spiritually aware herself. So but what I'm saying is that anything I sort of, any advice I give you, or any experiences I tell you about, I want you to take on board that you're your own person and we've all got our own ways of doing things, okay? So what works for me may not necessarily work as well for you, and vice versa. So adjust it, make it your own, okay? And obviously don't take my word for it. You need to have your own experiences, as I did. So I'm going to talk about developing senses. The way I did it was, and I don't know if I covered this in the first video, so I'll just quickly, briefly cover some of this. When my spiritual senses heightened, I noticed it was after childbirth. So I've got 3 children, but it was more with the second and the third child that the senses were heightened. And I remember it usually happened while I was either breastfeeding, or putting baby to bed, or whilst I was in bed, baby was in bed, and then baby would be woken up by spirit activity, because a lot of the time our loved ones like to come in and watch over the babies while they sleep, which is really sweet. Of course, it's not always loved ones that they can be disrupted by, though. It can also be other spirit energy coming in. And the reason they do this, and I know lots of you are sitting there now saying, oh my God, yeah, you know, this happens all the time. I get hundreds of emails and phone calls and text messages from people who say to, and a lot of my development students who say to me, Simone, why do they scare the children? Why does spirit come in and disrupt the children? You know, and why always when they're in bed, and you know, all this sort of thing. Well, the reason for that is you must take into account the age of the soul. So if you look at your child, and your child, you may already have a feeling that your child is an old soul. If you look at the child, and that child is 3 years of age, younger, older, you must remember that the child's soul, spirit, could be a lot older. So when energy comes in, when spirit energy comes in, they're not necessarily going to respect the fact that the child is only been on the earth plane this time around for 3 years. I know it sounds quite shocking, and people usually get a bit cross about that and think, well, you know, that can't be right. But in my experience, it is. And they do, you know, if you've got a little one and you feel they're an old soul and they've been here before, and they are woken up quite a bit at night, or they're disrupted during sleep state, or they say that they're having bad dreams, or they're experiencing people coming through the walls, or whatever it is, or whatever the experience is, you must take that into account, because they are possibly the strongest channel. So what I mean by that is this: if a gentleman decides to come through into your home, whether he's passing through or whether he's residual, we'll talk about that again, he may feel that your 3-year-old child's the best and the strongest channel, or the most effective way to get through, if that makes sense. Because also you need to remember that when we come in, when we're born, we come into this life, we are naturally open to this. So we're all born with it. We've all got spiritual senses. We've all got spiritual abilities. So you must remember that when you come in, before the brainwash state kicks in, we are all spiritually aware, which is why children are disrupted more, or which is why children tend to talk about experiences more, such as imaginary friends, which is debatable because I don't know if I mentioned in the last video, but imagination is a lot different to what I was led to believe, or what I was taught. Again, that's another subject. So imaginary friends, which a lot of parents will sort of shrug off. 2 reasons. 1, they're petrified. They don't want to know, they don't want to hear it. Or 2, because they just think, bless them, they've got a little imaginary friend, and they genuinely think no more than that. Now, imaginary friends are, in my experience, 9 times out of 10, as much as that, a high percentage of them anyway, are spirit children, spirit people, spirit animals, or even energy that you can't actually recognise, you can't describe as being familiar to. Again, that's another subject. So, this is a big thing. This is something that I hear all the time. And of course, when I had mine were woken up quite a bit as well. I became a bit of a surface sleeper, really. I rarely go into a deep sleep state, because I was so aware of my babies being disrupted, and I knew. I remember my son, my middle son, he's 15 now. I remember going into his cot, and I knew that the moment I walked in that room, I was going to walk into that cool energy, that that someone was going to be there standing beside the cot, and that's why he'd woken up. That's why my baby had woken up. And I'd lean over to pick up my son, and I would feel a gentleman standing there, and I wasn't scared, because I knew who he was, and I knew what he was doing there. And as I said, they're not always our relatives, but there's usually a reason, So there are ways that you can, how can I put it, keep this under control. If you are not happy about your children being disrupted in sleep state, if you're not happy being woken up during sleep state by spirit energy, then I'm going to give you a couple of pointers, a couple of ways you can maybe adjust that. It's always a good idea to go in and make a conscious effort to communicate. Communication is everything. You have to communicate. So you go into the child's room, for instance, and do this before the child goes into the room, because you don't want to freak the child out. You go into the child's room and you stand in the room and you confidently say, I am clearing my child's room of spirit energy, please. I do not want spirit coming in, disrupting my child's sleep state. And trust me, it works. But you have to believe it. If you don't believe it, they're not going to believe in you. They're not going to respond to that. So you need to believe that what you're doing here is going to work. So communicate. If you look at it like this, if I said to you, tonight, people are physically physical form are going to walk into your child's room and they're going to, you know, wake the child up and start talking to them or playing or whatever, would you be okay with that? Of course not. What would you do to stop it? A number of different things, but I can tell you it would be done through communication, wouldn't it? So it's the same thing with spirit energy. It's about communication. The whole thing is about communication. So, you know, you wouldn't ignore someone if they approached you and spoke to you. You wouldn't ignore someone physically there. So why is it okay to ignore them if they're there spiritually or their energy is there, and just because you can't physically see them? I'm going to check that this is still recording and then we'll continue. Lovely, seems to be all good. Okay, so what you do is, as I said, you go into the space, the room, wherever it is, and you say words to this effect. You can sometimes call in your guides, your angels. It's entirely up to you. You can call in a grandfather, a grandmother, your mother. You know, you call in whoever you want to call in if you feel you would rather them watch over your child. And the other way to do it is you can actually visualize clearing the energy from the room. So if you feel like there's a little bit of spirit activity in there, or you feel there will be later on, what you can do is you can put up almost like a shield or a force field or a sphere. And so what you're doing is you're keeping a barrier up to keep out that spirit energy. So to not allow the children to be disrupted or for you to be disrupted. Visualization is incredible, it's amazing. And of course, if you can see it, spirit can see it. In my experience, spirit energy can live in a visual world, so trust me, the visualization works. So what you can do, the other way you can do it is you can go in and you say, you say nice and confidently, nice and confident, you go in and you'd say, I always put my arms up as if I'm clearing it, I always say, I'm clearing any spirit energy, outside spirit energy, I'm clearing from this room. I ask all spirit energy, please, to stay out of my children's room during the evening. I ask that you do not disrupt the children during their sleep state. And I say it like I mean it. And I say it, with an authoritative voice, because I mean it, what I do tend to do is I go into my youngest son's room and I almost ushering them out. So I usher them out, come on, as if you're clearing a classroom full of children, it doesn't matter whether they're adults, children. Sending you with lots and lots of love. We can communicate another time, but this is not the time. While my son is sleeping, you are not to disrupt him during his sleep state. So you clear their energy out of the room, and then you either shut the door so that they know they're not allowed to pass that point, and they do respect that, a lot of them, or you could put something there. I've got a little box there, just put the box there and I make it clear that no one is allowed past that point. Thank you very much. And it works. So there's lots of ways you can do it. Some people get really, a little bit too obsessive is the word. And I don't think that's a good idea, because as soon as you allow the fear to kick in, spirit sense it. And if spirit have been around for a very long time, they've mastered how to use their energy. They're incredibly clever and incredibly powerful. There is no need to fear it. You should enjoy it. There's no need to fear it. If you entertain anything negative or dark, then you're almost giving them the signal that you are allowing it. You are enticed by it. So you never ever entertain the negative or the dark side. You never, don't allow the fear to come in. So if you do something obsessively, it's almost like, I'm gonna put this around the room. So many old-fashioned ways of clearing spirit from the room or stopping them from coming in. I just think it gets a little bit ridiculous. If you're obsessively trying to clear a room and you're repetitively going over it and over it, then they're seeing and sensing that fear. You know, so just do it confidently. Go in, you're the boss, you're not disrupting my children, out, thank you very much, you know, and that's that, all right? I'm going to end this one here and then I'll post up another one because I'm finding that if they're too long, they're not recording, probably because I'm boring everyone. So thanks for watching, see you shortly, bye.